Hey there, welcome to the Caledonia Gathering online. My name's Corey, and I'm so glad that you're here. It's our mission to tell people about the life and the love of Jesus and to inspire you to learn to live and love like Him. And if that's something you're interested in, you haven't done so already, I want to encourage you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. And I also want to let you know that if you've got kids who are like under the age of 7-ish and you're looking for an experience for them, you can find a link in our description below. Johanna, our family ministries director, and her volunteers put together a video experience just for your kids especially. So you can go ahead and find that link again in the description below. Today we are starting a brand new series talking about songs that give honest expression to the human experience. And so I want to encourage you to maybe grab a notebook or a Bible and a Bible, and to sit with both of those open, ready to dive into some of these songs that I hope may reshape the way that you see the world. And with that, let's get our hearts and our minds in the right place by singing.
We will
Hey there, folks. Welcome to part one of our new series, WayBack, PlayBack, which is going to be a series on some of the songs that we find in the Christian Bible. Now, as we make our way into summer, I kind of started thinking, it's a time for extended car rides, maybe vacations, or just simply long work days with your earbuds in. And that means that it's a time for playlists. And I don't know about you, but when I make a playlist for travel or for workout or for just chores around the house, I often turn to a bunch of older songs from different times in my life. Songs that pump me up or songs that kind of chill me out or relax me. But either way, I turn to the stuff that musically or lyrically gives honest expression to my human experience. It's something that's easy for me to connect with. And that's what we're going to do over the next couple of weeks. We're going to pull some old songs, some WayBack playbacks from Scripture that give that same honest expression to human experience, unfiltered, raw, at times offensive and uncomfortable, but always real. And my hope is that these songs can connect with you and perhaps move you to a new insight or experience of the divine. So, without any more introduction, we're going to jump right into song number one on our playlist. It's Psalm 19, which I would title The Boulevard of Belief. And this is what it says. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech, and night after night, they reveal knowledge. They have no speech, they use no words. No sound is actually heard from them. And yet, their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens, God has pitched a tent for the sun. It's like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, like a champion rejoicing to run his course. It rises at one end of the heavens and makes its circuit to the other. Nothing is deprived of its warmth. And then the poem kind of takes this interesting, a little bit weird turn. Look at verse 7. The law of the Lord is perfect, refreshing the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The decrees of the Lord are firm. They're like a faithful foundation that you know isn't going to shake. And all of them are righteous. They are more precious than gold, than much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey from the honeycomb. And by them, these precepts, these laws, these commands, by them, your servant is warned. In keeping them, there is great reward. It's to my benefit to keep them. And then another turn. And here things get more personal. But who can discern their own errors? Forgive my hidden faults. Keep your servant also from willful sins. May they not rule over me. Then I will be blameless, innocent of great transgression. May these words of my mouth and this meditation of my heart, may it be pleasing in your sight, Lord, my rock and my Redeemer. Psalm 19. Again, I would call it the Boulevard of Belief. I love this song because I think in it that the psalmist gives us an answer to one of life's biggest questions. Are we alone here? And the poet kind of walks us down this boulevard of belief in something greater than ourselves. This journey that takes us from a general belief based on what we see in creation to a specific belief to a very personal belief. It's actually incredible. He turns a polemic speech into a poem. He turns an argument for the existence of God into artwork. So let's take a closer look at this together. We're going to start with the first thing he does, which is general belief. He says that the heavens declare the glory of God. And then he goes on for a few lines talking about how he thinks that creation is crying out to God's existence. that the heavens declare his glory. The skies talk about his work. Day and night are both kind of revealing God's existence to the world. Even though, of course, skies don't actually speak, there's something about creation that communicates to the poet the existence of God, which isn't really that unfamiliar of an idea. I mean, it's an experience that a lot of people have. Maybe it's while standing and staring at the vastness of night filled with stars, or standing on a mountaintop watching the sky go on forever. Often these things have caused people to wonder about the existence of something greater, something beyond. I mean, one of the reasons that so many scientists are agnostic rather than hardline atheists is because of the complexity and wonder and the mystery of the environment, of nature, creation. The poet says that creation is calling out the attributes, the work, the character of God, that God is orderly, he's just, he's reliable, he's creative, he's wonderful and awe-inspiring. I mean, look at all that he's made. But before we move on, there's something very important I want to pause and point out. We'd skip over it otherwise, I think, reading too quickly. And that's the name that the author uses for God. He uses the term El in Hebrew. In our English Bible, it just translates as G-O-D. And so we assume that he means what we mean when we talk about God and use the word God. But actually, he's using the term that was common to all ancient Near Eastern peoples, regardless of religion. You see, ancient Near Eastern people had a worldview that included a lot of different gods. The sun was a god, the moon was a god. The ancient Babylonians believed, for example, that the earth and the sky were originally one goddess that got ripped apart and turned into earth and sky. But what all ancient Near Eastern people believed and used as the term for the highest god was the term El. El was the general term for the divine generator of everything. El was the great something that stands behind everything, the unmoved mover, the one who set everything in motion. The ancients believed that something can't come from nothing unless there is something that is unlike anything else to create that anything in the first place. In other words, if all of creation is a domino set, there has to be something that's not a domino to set the dominoes up and to push the first domino to set everything in motion. And they believed that something was El. In other words, for the first 4 verses of the song, everyone would have gotten on board. Everyone would agree. Creation is wonderful, isn't it? Doesn't it just speak to the wonder and creative complexity and mystery of the great something that made everything? Yeah. But then things start to get a little weird. At the end of verse 4, the poet says that El pitched a tent for the sun. And like a champion running its course, the sun rises at one end of creation and sets at the other, and so on and so on. All this talk about the sun. Why so much detail about the sun? Well, the ancients believed that the sun was a god itself, remember, and a god that in particular represented order and justice. And this is where this artist starts to begin his argument. The sun is not the originator of order and justice in this song. In fact, the sun is a created thing under the created control of the great El. El, the divine generator. And El, that creative force, the great something that started everything. El is not just a something, but a someone. And its name is Yahweh. This is where the poem begins to take this turn down the boulevard of belief from general belief to a narrower, much more specific belief. And again, we don't necessarily notice because we equate the idea of God and Lord when we read those words as being the same thing. But that's actually a dramatic shift to go from calling the great something El, like everyone else, to calling him Yahweh or Lord. But rather than choosing philosophical arguments and facts and reasons, this poet chooses to artistically talk about his experience because he knows full well what we all know, what you know, and that's that nobody changes their mind, nobody changes their perspective simply because they receive new information. It's not often that people change their point of view because of an explanation, but it's usually through personal experience that people change. And so the poet decides instead to point out that it's not the sun that brings order and justice, but rather it's his God, his El, Yahweh. Yahweh is the one who brings order and justice. The great something is actually someone, and that someone is the one who shows us how to live good and ordered lives. But instead of an argument, he talks about his experience, and that's what he starts in verse 7. It gets a little bit weird. It sounds like a love song to a legal system, but that's because our confusion comes again in the translation. When we see the word law, we don't see what he means. We think commandment, but the original poet is thinking the word Torah. He uses the Hebrew word Torah, and for him, Torah doesn't mean like a law, like, hey, you shouldn't steal or you shouldn't kill, but it actually represents the first 5 books of our Bible. Genesis, the story of the great something that created everything, revealing himself as a someone. Exodus, the story of that great someone saving the Hebrew slaves from Egypt. And Leviticus is the story of the great someone giving rules for how these former Hebrew slaves need to become human beings. And Numbers, which is the story of these rehumanized Hebrews becoming travelers to their promised land. And Deuteronomy, which is just a recap of those stories. I mean, it's just Yahweh interacting with people, showing them how to be human in a totally barbaric age. You see, for the poet, that's what Torah is. It's this book filled with stories and statutes and principles and decrees. It's rich with insight and wisdom on how to live a just and ordered life, a good life for how to be human. And so for the poet, learning to follow Yahweh by following his word, his Torah, is an experience that is refreshing to the soul. It allows the simple-minded to be wise. It brings joy to the heart. It helps to see things as they truly are. It's because of that, it's more precious than gold and it's sweeter than honey. And things will go better for you when you follow the way of Yahweh, which is actually the moment, I think, in the song where things go even further down the boulevard of belief, not just from general to specific, but now from specific to very, very personal. The poet basically is saying, life in Yahweh's law is so good, but the truth is, if I'm honest, I don't always follow it. I don't always keep it. I don't even always know the ways in which I'm not keeping it. I mean, some of my transgressions, so many of them are hidden. Now, some of them are also willful. They're arrogant. I know the way that I'm supposed to live, but instead I choose my own selfishness. And it ends on this very personal note of seeking forgiveness, which is kind of interesting, right? Because if there is no great something that started everything, and that something is not actually a something, but a someone who is the foundation for order and justice, then why feel any sense of guilt or the need for forgiveness? Because if there really is nothing out there, if we really are alone, there's no cosmic or divine being, then what basis is there for order and justice at all? If there is no universal L, then there is no universal law from L that we should all live by. I mean, why should we care about the rights of other human beings? Never mind Black Lives Matter. What's the basis for believing that any life matters? You see, this is kind of the trouble with our secular worldview today. We're all wondering if there's anything out there. Is there a great something or a someone? But if there isn't, how are we going to figure out what a good and just life looks like? How do we live it? Do we just decide for ourselves? This is the dilemma of the great philosopher, Billy Joe Armstrong. Okay, maybe he's not a great philosopher. He's just the lead singer of Green Day. But back in 2004, Green Day released a song called The Boulevard of Broken Dreams. And in that song, this is the problem that he laments. This is what he says in poetic form. This is what he says. He says, "My shadow's the only one that walks beside me. My shallow heart, the only thing that's beating. Sometimes I wish someone out there will find me. Till then, I walk alone. I'm walking down the line that divides me somewhere in my mind. On the borderline of the edge is where I walk alone. Read between the lines of what's messed up and everything that's all right. Check my vital signs to know I'm still alive. And I walk alone. My shadow's the only one that walks beside me. My shallow heart's the only thing that's beating. Sometimes I wish someone out there will find me. Till then, I walk alone." In other words, it's that question again. Are we alone here? Because if we are, then how are we supposed to sort out what justice and order look like? How are we supposed to sort out what a good life looks like? How are we supposed to walk or decide the line between what's messed up and wrong in this life and everything that's right? Who decides? Should everyone decide for themselves and just walk alone? And what happens when we decide differently and our ideals bump into each other? Should we just put it to a vote? When it comes to morality, should we just go with the majority? Should we simply decide that morality is whatever produces the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people? Well, then who decides what is good? How should we figure that out? Like Billy Joe Armstrong says, if humanity is walking a line in our minds between having to figure out between what's messed up and everything that's fine, I mean, sometimes don't you just wish that there was someone out there who could find us, who could find you? To use the words of the psalmist, to have a rock. I mean, a foundation for your life, for morality, for decision making, for knowing the difference between good and evil, to help you sort out and make the right choice right now. And then secondly, who's going to redeem you when you inevitably slip up, either because of your hidden selfishness that often goes undetected, or your own outright arrogance, your shallow heart that knowingly chooses self over everything else? What's your rock? And what's your redeemer? You see, herein lies the trouble that the psalmist wants to solve. He wants you to believe that the great something that made everything is actually a someone who defined what the good life looks like, and actually we're all accountable to him. If you don't believe that there's an overarching lawgiver or moral law to which we're all accountable, by which we can all determine what's right and wrong, then navigating life becomes really hard. It means that if you're a secular person, you regularly lean on and point to something that you actually don't believe exists every time you speak out for the rights of another human being. Black Lives Matter, unborn children, starving kids in other countries, human trafficking. I mean, what's the foundation for believing that we should care about any of those things? This is why I love the gospel message so much. John, who was one of Jesus' original followers, he said that the great something was indeed a great someone. And that someone put on flesh and came to live among us, the person, Jesus Christ. Jesus said that he came to bring life and life to the full. And the New Testament writers talk about Jesus being the cornerstone, the rock, the foundation for how to be human and how to take care of human beings. And best of all, Jesus willingly gave his life to pay for the selfish sins of humanity. For all the times that I've tried to define my own morality and got it wrong. For all the times that I knowingly chose myself above all else. For all the times that my hidden selfishness caused me to hurt others. Jesus gave his life for it. He is not only my rock and foundation for life, but he's also my Redeemer. You see, the message of the gospel, the heart of the Christian faith, is the foundation for how to be human, for a good and just life. I mean, Jesus was clear about the expectations for his followers on how they are supposed to live and love. He taught it. He modeled it. And then he also showed us the foundation for caring for human beings. I mean, Jesus believed that regardless of a person's behavior, they were precious enough for him to give his life for them, for me, for you. You see, the genius of the Christian message is that it totally humbles us, saying that all of us, our lives of sin deserve death. But at the same time, it lifts us up, saying that we are also so valuable that God thought that we were worth dying for. You see, if you've ever wondered, am I alone here? Christianity's answer is a resounding no. You are not alone. You are loved far more than you could ever imagine. The great something is a someone, and that someone thought you personally were worth dying for. And if that's true, then it gives us a solid foundation for caring for others. If that's true, that God thought that we were worth dying for, then black lives really do matter. Starving children really should be fed. Human trafficking should be stopped. Why? Because if God thought they were worth dying for, we should certainly see them as worthy of caring for. You see, there's a foundation for love and care of neighbor. There is a universal ought to for all of us. And his name is Jesus. He is the rock, the foundation for how to live a good and just life. And he's also the Redeemer that allows you to know that you are loved, that you are good, even when you're not good. Now, I want to end where the song ends, on this personal note. Now, I want us to sort of wrestle with this and make it personal. So here's 2 questions for you to answer or to discuss with the people around you that you're watching this with. Wherever you are on the Boulevard of Belief, because I totally understand that we're not all at the same spot on that road. Maybe you got tricked into watching this. Perhaps you're in a room with a whole bunch of people who assume we're all on the same page, but you're not there. Maybe you've been open about the fact that you're not sure what you believe, or perhaps you are certain about what you don't believe. Wherever you are on your Boulevard of Belief, these are the 2 questions I'd like for you to consider and to talk about with those around you. Number 1, what's your rock? What's your foundation for navigating life, determining right and wrong? Why do you think what you think is right? And why do you think what you think is wrong is wrong? What's your basis for deciding that? What is your rock? And the second is, where does your redemption come from? I mean, we all seek redemption. In other words, what I mean by that is we're all seeking the affirmation of knowing I'm good, even if I'm not good. And where does that come from for you? How do you know you're good, even though you're not good? What is your rock? And what is your redemption?
What gift of grace is Jesus my Redeemer? There is no more for heaven now to give. He is my joy, my righteousness and freedom, my steadfast love, my deep and boundless peace. To this I hold, my hope is only Jesus, for my life is wholly bound to His. Oh, how strange and divine, I can sing all is mine, yet not I, but through Christ in me. The night is dark, but I am not forsaken, for by my side the Savior, He will stay. I labor on in weakness and rejoicing, for in my need His power is displayed. To this I hold, my shepherd will defend me. Through the deepest valley He will lead. Oh, the night has been won, and I shall overcome, yet not I, but through Christ in me. No fate I tread, I know I am forgiven, for the future sure, the price it has been paid. For Jesus bled and suffered for my pardon, and he was raised to overthrow the grave. To this I hold, my sin has been defeated. Jesus now and ever is my plea. Oh, the chains are released, I can sing, I am free, yet not I, but through Christ in me. With every breath I long to follow Jesus, for he has said that he will bring me home. And day by day I know he will renew me, until I stand with joy before the throne. To this I hold, my hope is only Jesus. All the glory evermore to him. When the race is complete, still my lips shall repeat, yet not I, but through Christ in me. To this I hold, my hope is only Jesus. For the glory evermore to him. When the race is complete, still my lips shall repeat, yet not I, but through Christ in me. When the race is complete, still my lips shall repeat, yet not I, but through Christ in me. Yet not I, but through Christ in me. Yet not I, but through Christ in me.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We're so glad that you did. And, if you want to learn more about what it means to be a part of this community, if you've been watching for a while online or you ever attended in person, every couple of months we host this class that we call TCG 60. It's just an hour. We bring in pizza, we sit down, and we talk about what it means for you to be a part of this community, the benefits, the burdens, and what we're all about together as a group of Jesus followers. And so if you haven't done that yet, if you haven't taken that class, I really want to encourage you. You can send me an email, Corey@thecaledoniagathering.org, and just throw in the subject line TCG 60, and I'll know to put you in that class, and I'll communicate when we're going to do that. More than likely we'll do it on Zoom if we can't do it in person in the next couple of weeks. Secondly, because of the constantly fast-paced changing nature of this environment and world that we live in now, the restrictions being lifted or tightened, things continue to change and grow and develop. And so that means as a church, we're trying to be nimble and respond well. And so it would be really helpful if you could, if you wanted to stay connected to know what's coming up next, what we're doing together each week, you go ahead and send me an email to join the email list. Again, that's Corey@thecaledoniagathering.org, and just put in the subject title, I'm in. And that way we can stay connected. I can get you, send you more information each week about what we're up to, what's happening, what's changing, and you can stay especially connected to the ideas about where we're going next as a church. And lastly, I just want to encourage you, if you haven't started doing this already, I want to encourage you to begin your habit of generosity and giving with us. The reason that we do this every single week, that we encourage people to to give an offering is not because we need your money. It's not because we think God needs your money. But there's really two reasons that we do this, especially at our house, that we do this. The first one is that we set aside a portion of our income every single month to give away because it's God's way of shaping us to be generous people. I mean, God is a generous God. He gives us so much, especially giving us His one and only Son. He is a God who gives. And so in wanting to reflect that image, we give too. And the second reason is to join Him in the work that He's doing in this world. I mean, we want to tell people about the life and love of Jesus and inspire them to live and love like Him. And so if you want to join in that mission, one of the ways that you can do that is by starting your regular habit of giving. So if you want to go to thecaledoniagathering.org/giving, you can find the Caledonia Gathering in the drop-down menu and begin your journey of giving there. Now, before you go out into this week, whether you have a general belief, if you have a more narrow or specific belief, or if you've made it personal, I want to send you out with a personal blessing from the God that I believe wholeheartedly loves you individually. Go with the love of God, your Father, the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit. And all God's people say.